Honestly, I was just talking about technical stuff. You did not miss any content whatsoever. I really apologize for that. I was saying I had all new hardware and software that some of which was required to do last minute right before this started. Okay, the third question that I have for you. Honestly, I was just talking about technical stuff. You did not miss any content whatsoever. Okay, so the next question in line is, once you've prioritized these different topics of abundance, once you've rated the categories of abundance that you can raise in, and what's the first most important, second most important, third most important, I want you to very practically consider how much time every week can you allocate to raising abundance through any means. This is esoteric, and this is also practical. So if you've taken these 5 categories or more or less, if you've chosen for that, of areas to boost your abundance, then consider which areas you can invest time in based on that priority listing, and consider how much time you can invest. So this could include all of reallocating time, canceling something and taking time from one place, moving it to another. And this is your life as you've been living it, right? I don't want you to think of some ideal superhuman scenario that is not in your present experience. I want you to think of something that you're absolutely certain you could do right now with your current set of obligations, your current life habits and patterns, your current needs, choices, preferences, etc. And you miss the categories. You create your own 5 categories of areas where you want to create abundance. And if anybody has questions on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube or Zoom, I'm checking all, I can see all of them simultaneously. All right. So the next question for you, and I know I'm going fast, and even if you're just kind of scribbling quickly, just try to get the gist of it. So the last question for you to consider as I coach you through the next part of this is, as you consider your priorities, would you be willing to shift time away from your lowest priority to your highest priority? And what this does is this gets you very real with the idea of working in the limited 3D world of time. And you talk about unlimited abundance, you talk about unlimited resources. We're moving towards that. We're going to move towards that. But if you learn how to backflip, you don't go from 0 to 50 backflips on a single balance beam 80 feet in the air above the mats, right? You start usually having somebody hold your arms and your legs over somewhere very safe until you really work your core muscles and your balance. Then you can backflip on your own in a normal setting. And then you do 3,333 backflips, and you could probably do a backflip on a balance beam 80 feet above the mats, right? But for now, we're working with 24 hours a day, however many hours you need for sleep, however much time you need for everything else. And so there's darkness and light, there's light and darkness, there's the yin yang, there's water and fire, earth and air, there's all these pendulums, as reality train surfing might say, and so might the Kabbalion. And so really working with that, you have to get comfortable, is my opinion, with scarcity, with lack, with restriction, so that you can go to unlimited non-restrictiveness. And this might sound a little bit paradoxical, like a Zen koan. And so how do you make peace with it? Well, in every manifestation system, and I've tried over 24, and I teach them, I practice them every day for over 2 hours. I find a lot of success and rapid progress with them. But I find that ultimately, if you can let something go, and if you can be completely okay with it not happening, then it can happen. Now, if you can't completely surrender, but you can surrender 90%, that'll still be helpful. And the reason for that, and the reason for sigil systems, saying after you make a sigil, burn it, and Joe Dispenza's system, where after you do your manifestation practice, you completely let something go and shift away from this reality, this time, space, and identity. And the reason why it's sometimes helpful to completely do something else, which if you've attended my astral projection workshop series, if not, hit me up, I can happily make it available for you. But it's the reason why after those meditations, I shift into a very fast mental sharing a lot of information. Thanks for the comments. Boom, that lands. I so appreciate you guys on Instagram. Again, if you have questions, wherever you are, please post them and I'll see them. So when you have something you really care about, and you do your 5D work, you do your 4D work, you do your vision boarding, and you get to your peak of energy, if you shift topics right away, that's actually a very easy way. Hey, JT, that's actually a very easy way to practice letting go. So for myself, I used to have such a crushing fear of poverty that it drove all my actions and decisions. And I saw where that came from just how I grew up and people I talked with as I was growing up. And so I built up my courage and I went very deep into a vision. And in this vision, I was slumped against the wall of a gutter in tattered rags. And a person that I looked up to, that I was respecting, that I was attracted to, who was already very wealthy in the 3D world, passed by my alleyway and looked down at me in disdain. And in that vision, surrendering to that, accepting that I wouldn't be dead or in hell, that would just be a sliver of an experience, accepting that vision as true for a thought experiment, not a manifestation. My intention was to allow myself to face that fear. In my vision, once I fully surrendered, I stood up, spine straight. I walked up to him and I said, "It's really you that's the prisoner because you think you know everything that matters." I'm not saying that to justify poverty. Thanks for the love. I'm not saying that to justify homelessness or not non-chosen homelessness. Um, I'm saying that because if you can really embrace the absence of something as something that you feel emotionally neutral to, then you won't have fears, you won't have aversions, you won't have desires for the opposite of what you want to create. You won't be sending out the mojo of heart energy, of mind energy to something you don't want to focus on. So when you choose 5 things you want abundance in and you consciously do a thought experiment, we're not talking about major life decisions. We're not talking about a commitment or a soul contract or cutting off your arm and never regrowing it or never getting a prosthetic. We're talking about a thought experiment, all right? This is part of training. Of course, you can go forward with this. So if you want 5 categories, if you don't have them, or you want to hear just an example, you could talk about money, you could talk about physical health, you could talk about your platonic social life, your friend life, and mentor and professional life. You could talk about your romantic and or love life, and you could talk about mission or purpose. You could talk about creative pursuits. You could talk about your home environment. You could talk about family relationships. You could talk about, in terms of abundance, clothing and style, if that's a topic. But I think I gave enough big ones that you can fathom. Maybe you're going to make a trade-off from area 1 for area 2. And if you want to take this to an advanced level, I would offer for you to do the thought experiment of flipping it. So say priority 1 for you is loving friend connections. Priority 2 is money and finance. And the other priorities are whatever they are. What if you made priority 1 priority 5, and instead of investing any time, effort, or energy into manifesting 3D, 4D, 5D, and above, that number 1 priority of loving friendships, what if that was the bottom priority and something where you chose to put no time into, and you reshuffle the priorities and put all your time into something else? Now, if you did that just now in your mind, just as a trial for your number 1 priority, and you felt any negative emotion, and I'm using simple words, I know you could say negative is bad, but just, an unpleasant or an undesirable emotion for ordinary levels of how we experience reality. If you feel like a heart-wrenchingness or a sadness or a guilt or a fear or an aversion or a desire or wishing or regret or a shame, that could be something to clear. And I would even be so ostentatious as to say that is something that you should clear. So getting clear with this is kind of a big deal, because fully releasing everything that you have within you related to what you are trying to let go, that could be tough. I personally have not had a lot of long-term, romantic, intimate, loving relationships. For me, that's mostly boyfriends throughout my life. I've had very high standards. I focused a lot on my priorities in spiritual and professional development, and I knew where I wanted to be at a certain level of maturity, and I knew I wasn't there in several areas, and I knew I wanted a partner at that same level, and it didn't feel right to look for somebody who I judged as above me. You could say, "Oh, David, why would you is that self-worth stuff? Is that self-esteem stuff? Is that setting your sights too high or too low? Is that maybe you had things you had to clear, traumas, limiting beliefs related to any of those topics? Yes to all, maybe to all, and no to all, depending on your perspective. But I chose to not focus on abundance in that area, and I was okay with that choice, right? And that choice was hard at different points in time, but it was the right choice. I'm not saying it's the right choice for you, but I'm saying if you can do this thought experiment and shuffle any of these priorities, then once you clear any attachments to a vision of your ideal money, a vision of your ideal love, a vision of your ideal living arrangements, a vision of your ideal friendships, family, education, travel, life experience, physical health, mental health, all that stuff. Hey, Erica, glad you tuned in. All of that stuff. Once you clear all those topics, you're free. You won't be driven by need. You won't be driven by compulsion. And your manifestations will go so much faster, so much stronger. So what I just described is between 5 minutes and 5 lifetimes worth of work. And there's a lot of ways of accelerating it. I've heard feedback that my stuff is valuable. In my book, I probably reference 111 other books that has useful stuff for any of this inner work. But just being mindful of the fact that if you feel any trigger, any compulsion, any negative emotion when prioritizing, when shifting, when working on abundance, whether it's magic, whether it's practicality and life planning, then you could clear something. And if you clear something, and we're going to go through a clearing exercise in just a second to offer you an additional tool, then your resistance goes away, and thus your success of manifestation goes up, and your internal system has fewer obstacles to just being peaceful and being joyful, no matter what is or isn't happening in your life. Thanks, Erica. I really appreciate you. The tech difficulties were before we started on Facebook Live. All right. So let me just check YouTube for questions here. And I'm going to let what I shared sink in because I've gotten a lot of feedback that I move quickly and deeply and I should pause more. So just let what I shared sink in. And now a clearing exercise. I recognize a lot of you here. I'm really grateful to see a lot of everybody who's tuned in. And so how do you clear stuff when it comes up very quickly, very efficiently, anywhere in the world in 5 minutes or less? It should be a book title. But I added a little bit of a gimmicky touch there so it would like anchor in your mind. How do you clear this in 5 minutes or less? So thank you, Matthew. So I've a bit of background for this technique, and I'll try to go fast through this so we can get to it. I had chronic pain for 10 years. I had a lot of familial health issues, and you could say genetic or epigenetic health issues. I had 2 back-to-back near-death experiences in 2014 and 2015. And I had so much PTSD that I really could barely function and barely leave my room or barely be social. And that lasted quite a while. And I got a brain scan, and I got about 3 to 5 sessions a week. So I invested $500 a week over 10 years or $240,000 in my own healing journey and education. No, just journey. Education was above that. I did eventually apprentice and learn and ask questions from everybody I saw, but I've had a lot of experience with crappy or slow or vague healers, and the flip end of the world's best healers that I found that I had access to. People like William Bankston that I learned from, who at Ivy League University research settings took mice with tumors and cancer that were injected with double the standard lethal dose and held them in his hands, and they were cured of cancer. The cancer vanished. I've learned from Joe Dispenza, who's had people who had tumors vanish, who had Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disappear, who had bone degradation regenerate. There's an experience that I wrote about in my book that I talked about in the interview today, when my dad was about to die from kidney failure in the middle of surgery. And I shifted my awareness, and the kidney doctor came up out of the elevator when he was supposed to be in surgery for hours more. And my dad started mysteriously recovering without needing any of the extreme measures they were going to take. And, I just rushed through something that's a dramatic book chapter, but I've seen a lot of powerful healing techniques. And the most qualified person who doesn't like to be well known publicly, but if you live or have access to the Bay Area and specifically Sunnyvale, I can privately share his info. He's got like 40 certificates in energy field work, consciousness field work, meridian stuff, chakra stuff, chiropractic, massage, fitness, nutrition, trauma relief, neuromuscular technique, NLP, like the gamut. Super nice person, 5 kids, really grounded, traditional medical education, along with everything leading up to and including woo. And there's a psychologist, acupuncturist, massage person, and Reiki person in his office. So there's a certain pattern for wounding. Hey, Britt, so a question about my dad, you can grab my book, Magic is Real, and I talk about that in chapter 12. So there's a certain pattern of wounding that I've put together from many schools and many traditions, validated it with my own experience and with individual people who reach out to me for healing and mentoring sessions. And concisely, if we have an unhealed emotional wound, that can lead to stored cortisol in our body, which is the expression of stored energy or stored consciousness on the higher planes. Our body will use fat, water, heavy metals to surround that cortisol, so our brain isn't overwhelmed by it. Yet psychologically, we want to resolve this trauma and release this cortisol, so we often create situations in life or in our minds that remind us of the original trauma, and then we get triggered, and then we develop our personalities to either not encounter those triggers or work around them or band-aid them or heal them. And these can build on each other. And as they build, they can affect the body in bigger ways. They can lead to pain in organs and in joints and in muscles and in bones. They can lead to dysfunction in these areas. They can lead to you being triggered anytime you encounter somebody who's angry or angry with you. That's something I actually cleared in the last couple of years. I used to get very scared and freeze, an amygdala response, whenever anybody was talking with me and very angry. I had some experiences in early childhood where somebody who was very mentally ill was angry and hysteric at me to the point where their face was red and they were spitting. And I think all I did was, I don't think I did anything to merit that. I think I maybe asked to change the channel on the TV or something that I think was totally innocuous. And there were no special circumstances, just I didn't understand mental health imbalances at that time. And so that, I was so young, it just stuck in my system, and it led me to be very vulnerable whenever anybody was angry, even if they weren't angry at me. I just had to block it out. And so I saw, I'll do Master Seahorse. I'll just make up a name because I want to say his real name, but he asked me not to. So Master Seahorse will, so say I'll come in and I'll say, you know, I was around somebody who was angry. I felt really scared and like I really couldn't do anything. And I've been having these digestive issues. He would muscle test me, and he's very skilled. Not everyone who muscle tests is good at it. He would muscle test me. He would check my meridian points for it was tender. He would check my motor reflexes after neurostimming different reflex points on the head, the neck, the back. And he would find the meridian acupuncture channel that reflected the emotion, that reflected the organ, that reflected where the stored trauma was. And through that, we were able to narrow down the memory. And then there would be different techniques where I would like put my hand on different parts of my head based on the context. You know, this is years and years and years of schooling that I'm summarizing very briefly here. And usually put the other hand on a certain part of my body, and he would adjust or stimulate or activate or tap or swipe or flick or pinch different parts of my spine or areas near it. And then I would release a burp or a sneeze or spitting or extra saliva or a sigh or laughter or releasing a lot of body heat. And then the trauma would be released. And I could think about the event or the angry person and be completely fine or be pretty neutral. That, in my opinion, is the strongest and fastest healing technique I found. I have attended healing schools and healing workshops and received so many hundreds of sessions that took a long time and took people through a model where there was a lot of suffering and a lot of story and a lot of need for other stuff to release a trauma. And releasing a trauma in 5 minutes or less is so liberating, especially when you can do it on your own. Now, I don't know how quickly it'll take you to learn it, but I can say if you want to learn this, commit to practicing it as often as you can whenever you feel any emotion or any compulsion that you can't shake in 5 seconds if you want to, or that you wouldn't choose. And if you want help again, please reach out to me. This is something I'm happy to support you with one-on-one. So I want to teach you this, and I want you to trust yourself to pick an example that's significant enough to bring up an unpleasant emotion, but not so much that it's so triggering that you tune out. And hey, thanks, Britt. And I want you to pick that now, and I'm going to offer one in a second. And so you can take the one I'm offering as an example for yours, or you can just take what I'm offering. So what I'm offering is the topic of money and the topic of fairness. And if you're in this workshop, you probably have some decent capacity to talk about these topics, or you wouldn't have signed up for an abundance workshop. Love and light, thank you. Thanks, Carlos. And so money and fairness. So one cool way to muscle test yourself, I'm going to stand back and demo it, and then we get closer to the microphone where you can hear me. So you want to lift your leg and press down on it. And then you want to, as you're pressing down on your leg, because these muscles are among the strongest in the body, you want to think of something that weakens you emotionally. So perhaps you could say that the world isn't fair to people and how people are treated with money, or I'm underpaid, or this person stole from me and that was wrong, or I don't have enough money for X and I'm scared because of that, right? Try these different statements. And so try them with me right now. I'll do it with you. So let me see how flexible I am. All right, I'm pretty flexible here. I'm standing on one toe and doing this, but I'm just doing it to have camaraderie with you. So press down on your leg while you're holding it up, just get a good baseline. And after me, this isn't an affirmation, this is a test, say, I'm underpaid and undervalued. And if your leg gets weak, that's true for you, and that's a trigger. Okay, cancel. You can say, I am whole and things are perfect as they are. Again, just thought experiments for now. And we're gonna do 2 more. I want you to press down on your leg again while you lift it up. And I want you to say, I feel some tough emotions from some situations in life related to money, not specific ones. And if your leg gets weak and if it goes down, then that's a thing for you. Okay, clearing that, and repeat after me if you want. I can clear any money situation to feel good and okay about money. I can clear any money situation to feel good and okay about money. Maybe tap your chest a little bit. Those are some big ones. All right, one more test here. And let's make this one neutral. Again, hold your leg up, put your hand on it, and say, apples are nice. And your leg strength is probably not affected at all. Right? And so now you see, you can try different things. And you could say, for example, I have enough money for my next meal, or I have enough money to purchase one meal, right? And you could do that while holding your leg up, and your leg probably doesn't get weak, right? So this is step 1, and this is the technique to see, is there a belief or a topic that is weakening you or is triggering you? And you might know it, you might not need that. I just wanted to teach the basic for Foundation 1. And again, this workshop is being recorded. Feel free to take any notes or, screenshot the timestamp. We are at about, just for your own FYI, about 50 minutes into the workshop, if you want to write down that timestamp to return to this part. All right, the next phase is you want to feel, when you think about the triggering event, say, there's something that happened to me in life with money that isn't fair. I just want you to say your version of that. And as you say that, or whatever mildly triggering money statement, I want you to feel in your body if you feel any tightness or pain. And if it's bearable, then continue on. If it's too much, then clear that energy, just shower yourself with white light and pick a lighter example. And as you hold that part of your body, it could be the lung I've had a lot with for myself. The lung's actually up here. But as you have your statement, maybe you close your eyes and just think about something that reminds you of it, something recent that really brought up some emotions that didn't feel great. And as you really think about them, that this part gets a little tight. Okay? And I want you to take your awareness and move your awareness in that part of your body. But I want you to view your life as a comic strip. And I want you to ascend up and fly up to the fourth dimension above time and space, where you see the dozens of comic strips, and each cell is an important memory in your life. And I want you to see all the memories of your life mapped out for you. You don't need to see an image for each. Just have a visual of, however many boxes of important memories. And I want you to find the earliest one where you felt the same feeling, same emotional feeling. It might be in the same part of your body. It might be in a different one. It might even be a different emotional feeling. What we're looking for is the root of the trigger, like the earliest anchor for it. And if you have the awareness, you might find something in a past life, but most of these, for me, actually have been from this life and in the own experience from my own person. So when you get to that original thing, it could be when you were 3 or 4 years old. It could be when you were a teenager or earlier, if you're older than a teenager as you're watching this. I want you to just witness it and just witness the amount of intensity that's stored there. I don't want you to go into it or try to feel it. Just notice it. As you notice it, open your eyes for 1 second. I want you to take your hand in like a karate chop fashion, put it at this part back of your head. I want you to take the other hand and put it on your heart. Okay? So this is kind of what it looks like. And I just want you to breathe slowly and deeply, and I want you to shake. And as you're shaking, I want you to imagine somebody thumping you on the back. And if you want to, you can use your heart hand to like tap yourself on the back, but have it with a good amount of force, a good amount of pressure, be safe. Just try to go up and down your whole spine, tapping a couple times. You could go up to your brainstem and just give like a strong, decent tap. You can move to the left and right in the muscles. All right, now we're going to coordinate that. I want you to breathe, keep this hand up, and either tap or have your heart while you're feeling the original event. And you might want to release some sound like ah or anything else. And as you're feeling it and doing this, this is going to release it way faster. So get your hand in position. Some of you are already doing it, I know. Feel into the event as if it's happening. And then just alternate, tapping your back pretty strongly. You're giving your heart some love, tapping your back all the way up to the top of your head, going all the way down. And just keep doing that until it clears, while releasing, however you can, the emotions through sound and through breath. And if you're watching a replay of this video and you need to keep going, you can hit pause. And whether you clear 0 or 100% of it, you can keep going, or you can listen to me and take a break. I'd say take a break, because this can be intense. What this does is this combines several techniques I've learned from several teachers. And teaching this properly does take several hours, so I'll teach a little bit more of it at each abundance workshop, because there's multiple meridian points, multiple hand positions, multiple layers of memories. And I just wanted to teach you the basic version now, so you can have a self-healing tool you can do it anytime right away. And everything else I would share will help you heal faster. So stuff for me that used to take 3 hours of sessions, I can now clear in 5 to 10 minutes and save the money of a session fee. And I don't mind having paid for those session fees. I consider those tuition for an incredibly valuable life skill. And at the same time, I'm really happy to teach you that, so you can learn it for less than $240,000. And if you really, really want the origin of this, and you really want the I think it's a 20-30 hour workshop. I can put you in touch with the person who told me about it, and you can take that whole thing if you're able to get in. And I feel that as I teach this in a series of workshops, I might just chop out those videos and have just that as a small collection of videos that I make available. So if you would like those, please send me a private message, and I'll put you on a certain list. So when the workshop series is finished and that's compiled, I'll send it over to you, along with sending it on my newsletter, my YouTube, Facebook, the usual places. All right, I wanted to take a brief break because that was pretty intense and give space for any questions. So anybody on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, if you have any questions, anything you'd like to learn, anything you feel that I've said that was unclear, or anything else that you want to type, please do so now. And I will reply and answer and share when the most appropriate time is, maybe right away, maybe at the end, based on the flow of what's to come. So everyone who's just joining, all right, I don't see any questions. So if they come up, you can bring them up, but occasionally there's a natural pause. So now that we have a clearing exercise, now that we have before that a prioritization system, the healer Phoebe actually asked me not to name them publicly, but if you send me a private message, I can put you in touch with them. I can share why. Essentially, this stuff is not mainstream. They're in a mainstream field, and they have to just be mindful of their career, even though everything they're doing is certified and they have a lot of certifications. It was just their preference, and I care to honor that. All right, so getting a practical list, including the exercises we've done so far, thinking about how much time you have to allocate physically or esoterically towards what you ultimately choose, or I would offer top 2 priorities of areas to increase abundance. There's several things to do that will boost how much you can add, boost how much you can progress. And those force multipliers are things we've already done. They're time management, they're healing blocks, they're being very clear in your why, so your deeper motivation, they're forming habits, which we haven't talked about yet, and they're having specific, measurable, accountable, set up, realistic and timely goals, SMART goals. There's a lot of goal systems out there, but that was really easy to remember and find, so I always like to use it. So most of those we could look up. And I want to talk about habits specifically because abundance, like fitness and like wealth, is usually not something that just happens and then it's done. You know, so many people win the lottery and then blow it. So many people get a big inheritance with no restrictions and blow it. So many people win money gambling in Vegas or elsewhere and blow it. And on the flip side, people who keep their money return to their base level of happiness. It's called set point theory. People who get paralyzed return to their base level of happiness or otherwise after 6 months after their paralysis started. That's set point theory. So breaking your set point means completely changing that aspect of your reality, right? And if you want it completely changed, while that could be a project, like one big job materializing one massive pile of diamonds, likely it has to do with the way you live. And this is a big one. And to quote Joe Dispenza, if you want a new personal reality, you need to have a new personality. Which, guess what, means another ego death. But the good news, what I found in myself, what I found in hundreds and hundreds of sources, and man, I'm happy to talk about the art behind me a little bit at the end here, and I'll include it at the right time. But thank you, that's a great comment. So considering all the things that one can do to build abundance in a project or continuously, it's generally better to have something as a lifestyle so you don't have to change anything to get more of it, right? If you gain 10 pounds of fat or lose 10 pounds of muscle, or just because those are really simple and easy to measure, and say you didn't want the fat and you did want the muscle, there's pretty decent information out there on how to lose 10 pounds of fat or build 10 pounds of muscle. And yeah, there's a lot on there how to customize it to your unique situation as well. For money though, getting $10,000 is a project, but arranging your life to earn $10,000 more per month is a lifestyle. Figuring out how, yeah, that's a project, but earning it more consistently is a change in lifestyle, is a change in how you do things for the most part. So some part of you that's been living in a different life is going to have to go away. And I'm not talking about the type of ego death that you experience on psychedelics or in dark nights of the soul, or even, the death of your child, part of your child self as you go through puberty and as you go through adolescence. Those are all different types of ego deaths. What I'm talking about is one part of you, which is maybe a weaker, lower, less mature, less evolved, older, less developed part of you that you're willing to surrender. I, for the last 6 years, starting with my near-death experiences in the middle of my chronic pain, including my dark night and other stuff, I had a lot of trouble being grounded. I wanted to be out of my body. I felt terrible in my body. And then once I learned all the fun, esoteric, third eye open, astral travel, realm bending, manifestation, spirit world, elemental energy, goddess God energy, fun stuff, I'm like, who needs a body? And then as I realized I had to be grounded to appreciate and live in, succeed in, enjoy, and just be happy in this material world, I had to be at peace with the heavens and the earth. Same with my root chakra. So there was a time when I was eating 3/4 of a bar of mild organic cheddar cheese every day. There were a lot of reasons for this, but one of them was it helped me stay grounded. And as I think I said before, a master, you can get to mastery faster if you make a change like that, and it's 100%. Not if I'll do it tomorrow, or maybe I'll do it, or I'll think about it, or I'll buy one more pack of cigarettes, whatever. So I realized that I did not need cheese to ground. I did not want to take cheese to ground. And even if everything about eating cheese was fine, and there were two things that weren't, I made that decision and then I stopped eating cheese, at least based on that habit. I didn't quit cheese for life, but I stopped it being a regular part of my day. And I'm using a simple thing. For you, it could be any number of topics, but a simple example is usually easy to generalize on. And with that decision, there was no struggle. There was no wondering, oh, should I cut down, from 8 bars a week or 5 bars a week to 4, and then 2 weeks later cut down to 3 and measure everything. No, right? No. And there's a stigma against cold turkey, and that refers to highly addictive things. And I would offer to you that you have more strength than somebody who is a strong addiction to a certain type of substance. Now, if that's what you're going through, you have my heart, you have my love, you have my strength, and definitely get appropriate support in making the changes that are sustainable in the ways that are right and safe and healthy for you. But even if you have something like that as your case, there's probably a lot of other things in life that you're being a little lazy with. You're not really being your best. And most importantly, you have the energy to shift. You have the abundance to shift. One small example is I'm naturally right-handed. I'm building more ambidexterity. It takes conscious effort to brush my teeth with my left hand, chew on the left side of my mouth, and drive with my left hand. I use my right side for all of those things. Oddly, I favor my left leg, but that's a separate thing. And so in the shower this morning, I was brushing my teeth. I thought, oh, I don't want to use my left arm. I want to save my energy. I'm like, how much energy does it take to use a different handed toothbrush? There's all these neurological benefits for it. And even if there aren't, the placebo effect works even if you know it's a placebo effect, or at least it does now. Right? So I chose, like, I'm not gonna complain about this anymore. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna choose to be the person who brushes their teeth with their non-dominant hand to get that benefit, and it'll be easier next time. But thankfully, neurologically, we really understand what this means. I really wish my whiteboard was finished. I have it right there. If I could turn my whole lighting setup. Actually, let me just show it to you because I really wanted to use it tonight if I didn't have the software glitch. So next time, I promise. The thing is, it's really big. So the change that you want to make involves creating new neurons and creating new neuron extensions. And I really want to draw this, and I do have a pen type object here, so I'm going to use that. So say you have a little bit of hot band there. So say we have, this is eyeliner. Give me 1 second. Those of you who have followed me for a long time know I'm usually way more prepared. I just love trying new stuff. All right, so say you have a neuron. This is a PhD level anatomy lesson, right? And say you have a neuron over here, right? And say these are dendrites, and say this is the new habit, and say this is the old way of being, right? What you want to get to is you want to shift from the old to the new, and you want to build those connections of the different habits to the point where you get more new neurons, and these new neurons are connected, and then all of these are firing in the activities you want to do to the point where these aren't needed anymore, and these will be pruned, or there'll just be less electrical activity going through these. So the first connections, of course, they take more energy. You know, if you think about learning to walk versus walking, if you think about learning to play a musical instrument versus playing it, learning how to play the scale properly on the flute for me took 2 to 4 weeks. Once I learned it, I could wake up, be sleepy, play the scale with almost no conscious effort, something that is called unconscious competence, right? So first, you're consciously incompetent, you're not skilled and you know it. Then you can be consciously competent, where if you're focusing, you do well. And when you're at a level of mastery where you don't have to think about it, you're unconsciously competent, like most of us who drive are with driving. We don't have to think about all the elements of driving like we did when we were training and learning how to drive, and possibly a lot during a test to get our driver's license. So the habits of abundance that I'd like for you to instill is not only going over these exercises and these healing practices, but is getting very clear on where and how you want to shift, getting clear on why, and then making the shift. That's all. It sounds so simple, but if you're in a workshop to change a component of your life, you're receiving education to learn actions. I'm saying do actions. And you knew already, most of us know deep down what we need to do. And you're like, why did I go to a workshop for somebody telling me to do what I need to do? Well, do what you know you need to do. And when you do that consistently, when you track it consistently, your likelihood of success is going to go up like so much faster. So there's a lot of goal setting systems I have. And just to look at that same neurology example, I just want you to take, you know, this visual as a reference and say these 10 circles are 10 days, right? Say in 10 days of doing something, you'll develop the habit and you'll get to unconscious competence. Now, a lot of habit stuff says 60 days or 30 days or different numbers, but you're a pretty mindful person, you're spiritually aware. You know, I believe in your ability to build a habit in 10 days. I believe in your abundance in learning speed, if you choose to accept that, right? So the first day, that's really hard. Say that's, you know, hard is 100, and then easy is 0. 0 is effortless, right? So say this is at 100 level of difficulty, and say this is at 20, right? So if you want to have accurate expectations, realize that you'll go from 100 to, you know, 95 to 85 to 70 to 60 to 50. Maybe you'll have a rough week and you won't change. You'll be at 50 again, and then 40, and then 30, and then 20, right? So the first couple of days you're building a habit, it's really tough. It's going to take a lot of extra energy. So you do want to plan and rearrange your time so you can invest the amount of energy you need to build those neuron connections while having appropriate biochemistry and other stuff of a healthy brain, blueberries and whatnot. And then it still takes effort. And if you're patient with yourself, you see that effort decreases. And then maybe on day 13, magic number 13, it's 0. Maybe you'll have 10 here, 5 here, and 0, right? And you probably know from starting and stopping things in the past, if you stop at 0 and you wait a day, a month, or a year, when you restart, you might be at 30 or 85, or it might feel like 150, like it's impossible. So the reason I'm sharing this is so you can be real with yourself in this abundance shift that you want to make. And you can give yourself the appropriate time and allocate the appropriate amount of energy. So earlier, I said, think about how much time and effort you can devote each week. And I want to use 5 hours because I feel most of us, if we focus, we can allocate 5 hours to something really critical to us. And I want to talk about income just because it's really easy and simple to measure. I feel abundance is way more than money. I talked about that friend example earlier and a lover example, but just because money is so measurable and more relevant to more people than, say, muscle and fat, I'm just going to use that. But again, please customize this for you if you'd like. So just to pick a simple number, and it's a big number for a lot of people, but just to make the example workable, say $100,000 is what you would earn, let's say in a 2-year period, and take an average type of income. I wish for you that you earn however many multiples of that you want, right? So say you earn $100,000 in 2 years and you want to double that, and that would be abundance as we defined it earlier, or as you define it. So to do that, you either need to change jobs or expand on your current job, or find a really strategically smart way to bring in $100,000 over 2 years to get to that level of abundance. And what we said earlier, this whole workshop is holographic and continued together. What's the lowest hanging and biggest fruit? Is it take another full-time job? No, that's kind of a lot of work. I don't know how low hanging that is. Is it develop a relationship with somebody extremely wealthy who believes in you and your mission and is known to give forgivable loans or grants to people in the realm of $50,000 to $100,000 for these types of causes? And when you talk to those people, that money was given, usually after 4 or 5 months of a relationship. And you could expand this to angel investing and other stuff, right? So you can get very concrete and consider, well, if you have 5 hours a week to achieve your goal of an extra $100,000 in 2 years, how can you achieve that goal of abundance absolutely 100% for sure? Whether it's a project, you take all a year's worth of that time and you do it all at once, or you make it a lifestyle. Now, the lifestyle is being open to doing the manifestations that this can come in, knowing it can come in, either a job offer for double your current pay, or that relationship scenario, or that grant scenario, or any other type of scenario that you could imagine for $100,000 in 2 years. Just heard a big boom outside, so and I'm also intuiting raise it to 3, 4, or 500K, massive abundance, so we can help our spiritual brothers and sisters who could appreciate support from this work but aren't doing it for whatever reasons. So I would offer that the habit is more sustainable, and 5 hours a week, let's just say that's 45 minutes a day, so just on weekdays. So you can keep having weekends off. You schedule an hour, so you have 15 minutes of buffer time that can be transitioned before or after, or give you some leeway in case you get interrupted. And that way you'll get those 45 minutes in every day, no matter what. And that way, over the course of time, you're going to be continuously building up manifestation energies, continuously building up time, continuously building action for your goal. Again, you might say, David, this is so simple. You're saying work on my goal every day, work on my abundance every day. I'm saying, yeah, you are. Even a meditation, even the most powerful meditation I can teach you takes time. One of my favorite stories related to abundance in my own life I have about 7, but when I was graduating college, I was starting my own business, and it was 2008. So the country was in a recession. Michigan, where I was in a depression, and I wanted to run my own business, and so I was just so focused on it, and I wanted to live in a great house too. I wanted a 4-bedroom house so I could have art studio, office, yoga room, garage for artwork, backyard for martial arts, lower level for entertainment and guests, and living in a cul-de-sac near my college campus, near Whole Foods, with sidewalks and a bike trail, this idyllic place. And in Michigan at the time, the rent for a place like that was $1,400. And I probably put in about 45 hours of manifestation practice before my realtor friend Miriam called me and said, "Hey, I have a house for you. It's your dream house. It's $350 a month." I'm like, "Sure, Miriam, that sounds great." And that it was that rate for I think a year and a half or 2.5 years. Now that's a type of abundance. I could have received the money to pay the difference in rent all at once and had the discipline to only have it towards rent. But having that gift to me was so great, and it took 45 hours of time. So I'm just going to open up my phone calculator, and that was a habit for long enough to achieve it. So if we do let me see, if we do 1.5 years times 12 months times 13, 12, 11 times 10, 50, the economic value to me of those 45 hours of manifestation practice was about $19,000 in saved rent, or achieved of, this is really funny, achieved in that 45 hours of meditation practice was essentially earning $420 per hour. 420, that's it. I swear I did not make that up. And remember earlier, if you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000-hour work year. So for my manifestation, I was essentially paid by the universe the equivalent of $840,000 a year. Wowza. Now, this is not a meta-analysis. This is not meant to say that exact example is replicatable and will be for everybody, including myself, for every project. And the types of practices, Dylan, that's a great question. So actually, I was about to go into that next, so congrats on your psychic abilities. The practical exercises for manifesting abundance from a 5D level are what we're going to shift into next. But as we shift, I wanted to offer a brief transition. And that transition is very simply, I want you to write down the following sentences. And this is going to be the last of the written exercise part of the workshop. So get your materials ready. And then after this, we're going to, I'm going to explain the basics of manifestation after this. So if you already feel like you get manifestation and you want a quick bio break, it's a great time for it. But before we get into that, 3 sentences. The first one is, how would I feel when the abundance I'm visioning is persistent, consistent, and complete? It's a big one. Second question, how could my relationships change for the better, and how would that make me feel if my abundance in this area were persistent, consistent, and complete? And last one, how would the world be different? And you could have this, how could a person or group be different if you want something more specific than the world? But how would the world be different if my purpose and its effects were persistent, consistent, and complete. Heavy stuff, right? Very heavy stuff. Now, the answers to these are going to support your manifestation. The answers to these are going to support your why. And in any instance where you're talking with somebody who could support you, the answers to those questions could lead them to a huge inspiration, a huge wanting and willingness and effort and actions to support you in some way, through introductions, through moral support, through finance, through whatever way is meant to be. And they're also going to make you feel really darn confident because they're going to help you give a strong emotional anchor to the positive. If you think of scarcity, which I would call for convenience the opposite of abundance, we feel scarcity when we focus on it. And if we're experiencing something we call scarcity, it's all over in our life. It's everywhere. And if we're not experiencing our definition of abundance, yet we want to know what it feels like so we can recognize it when we have it and then experience more of it, and to boost the manifestation, you have to generate that feeling somehow. So Esther Hicks, in her book, The Law of Attraction with Money, Jerry asked, well, how do you feel a thing if it hasn't happened yet? And she said, you just got to figure it out. Well, friend, I think I figured it out. And I think I can teach what she did not, or what Abraham chose not to at that time. Thanks, Anne. And as you're considering how to feel something you haven't experienced, I just want you to remember the powers of visualization. And I'm going to do an exercise with you that you've probably heard of and done before. And if you have, I'm going to encourage you to exert more effort in the visualization, not say, oh, I've done that, I don't need to do it. Because repetition is the mother of learning. Repetition builds intensity. Repetition builds manifestation power. And if you get bored from repetition, then here's an opportunity, if you've heard this example before, to overcome that boredom, to bring in some of your power and say, I'm going to use this to practice. So here's a visualization of something not happening in the physical world. And as you go through this visualization, the neurons in your brain that would fire if this actually happened, some of those same neurons, or all, depending on who you are, will fire. So close your eyes. Imagine you're in the kitchen. Imagine you have a cutting board, and on that cutting board is a lemon. You take the lemon in one hand, and with the other hand, you take a sharp knife, and you cut the lemon in half. And you feel the resistance of the skin, and then you feel the less resistance in the middle. Maybe you rotate it and change the angle to get the rest of the lemon peel. And then you move it and you cut it in half again. Just really get that last part of the nub of that lemon. You see the juices on it, and you can smell it. And then you take that other piece of the lemon, you cut a lemon wedge, cut that in half one more time. And you take that lemon wedge and you hold it over your mouth and you open your mouth and you squeeze and you see the drips of pure lemon juice, fresh lemon juice hitting your tongue. You taste them, you feel that tanginess, you swallow, and then you just put the whole lemon wedge in your mouth. Right? If you had any reaction whatsoever to that, you just experienced the power of feeling something without having had the physical experience of that. And if you didn't feel anything, then you could try other creative experiments with the knife. I used to have chocolate cravings, and I would visualize myself. I have to do something technical with Instagram real quick. Sorry about that. I used to visualize myself taking chocolate truffles that my roommate made fresh from the freezer and putting them into my mouth when I was 50 miles away from these truffles. And I would chew them slowly, and I would salivate, and it would taste so good and amazing, and I would swallow, and I would feel yummy, and I didn't eat a single milligram of chocolate, and I just felt so good, and my craving for the chocolate went away. So if you want to manifest successfully, if you want to visualize and feel something you haven't experienced yet, the money, the relationships, the car, the life, the health, the options, the travel, you can do it. Now, is visualizing an entire day in Cancun or Costa Rica or Bali, or with an extra 100 grand, or some shift with your lover or your friends or your life or your body. That's cool, Anne. Is visualizing those things much more difficult and complex than a lemon? Yeah. That's why I'm saying 45 hours of it. That's why I'm saying it took 45 hours to manifest the 19 grand worth of something for me. Now, the cool thing is when you build this manifestation skill, these visualization skills, this practice, this habit into your life, you're going to get better at it, and it's not going to take as long as a result. So I had a scenario once where I was really, really pressed for cash. I did a money ritual that took about an hour and a half. I invested about half an hour of prep and half an hour of integration, so maybe a 2.5 hour package of time. And then after I finished that ritual, within a week and a half, a contract which was denied, the decision was reversed and it was approved for like $84,000. And I got a $30,000, $40,000 check in the mail, and then payments every month after that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this was successful. And so the dollar ratio on that, it was huge. So I did another money ritual 2 weeks later, and then I got an offer from somebody I barely knew for $200,000 a year, plus equity, plus bonuses, plus, gosh, revenue share, plus free travel for Japanese cool technology like VR and robotics. And it was like out of this world awesome. And I think it was highly correlated with my money ritual because I was not in touch with this person at all, nor was I job hunting or pitching myself for any of those things. So the value in building up your skill and manifestation is it will reduce the amount of time of your physical actions. And the reason why I say still plan out your physical actions, still expect, those 10, 13 days where you build a habit and it takes less effort every day, taking actions towards what you want to be more abundant in, is say it'll take you 300 hours to achieve your abundance goal or your personality shift. Hey, thanks, Matthew. So appreciate you. Say it'll take you 300 hours if you just work in the 3D. If you use the astral energetic realm, say you include your intuition, say you include energy healing of certain blocks, say you let yourself be led to certain people, places, things, and times that help you succeed in your shift and experience. So you include the 4D, maybe that 300 hours cuts down to 200. And the 200 includes any 4D, energetic, etc. practices. I feel that if you use the 5D practically, you can reduce that 200 hours to 50 or 10 or even 5 minutes if you're really good. And continuing up that skill level is why I work at the 70 with divine beings. So, Lakshmi as one representation of the archetype of abundance that can be called a goddess or the goddess of wealth. Not, there's many names, many traditions, many representations. This is one representation as I said it. I work with those energies personified as Lakshmi, taking them into myself to the point where I feel aligned, saying, I am Lakshmi. And even if that's just for a sliver of a second, if I don't have the 18 arms and the flower petals and everything else, feeling that energy for a moment has massively boosted my abundance successes when I do it well, successfully, and continuously. I've done it for other people, and they got raises and they had financial blocks removed. Now, there's karma involved in this, there's limiting beliefs involved in this, there's the lessons we have to learn and the obstacles and challenges we have to face as part of this. So, that's why I don't have $100 million by now, or maybe one of the reasons. But if you're going to practice anything, why not be efficient at it? Why not be as efficient as possible? If you know that there's enough science and data and anecdotal evidence and teachings that you can build skill in the 4D and 5D, and you can find all the productivity hacks and time and energy management tools that I teach and Tim Ferriss teaches and so many other people teach for the 3D, then isn't it worth building the meta skill so you can make shifts and successes faster and better and faster and better? Right? A lot of manifestation techniques just talk about effectiveness. Few talk about speed. And in a chapter from Magic is Real Book 2, the chapter is dedicated to power. And I offer equations for magic where if you can boost the amount of power, the speed, you don't need as much speed. So that, say, 45 hours, if I worked with Lakshmi very powerfully, and say I was at the exact same level of life experience and skill and training then, but I just included Lakshmi instead of just my own visualizations, I think that 45 hours might have been 3 to 5, right? So I'm offering you one template. You can choose to use it. You can consider other forms of the anthropomorphized archetype of, of abundance, or to say Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, and be chill about that. You could say a projection of your own subconscious, an element of you as the all, as the unity, infinity of everything in all existence and non-existence, and being and non-being. You know, I just like Lakshmi quite a bit. But whatever you use for power amplification, maybe it's crystals, maybe it's sigils. If you want to be scientific about this, you know, you could try a few. You could even try a few standardized experiments. This is a skill for life. This isn't just a cool idea. This is making a shift for yourself or others as fast as possible so you can invest more time in other areas of your life. Because, hey, I love magic. I can meditate for 3 hours. I can spend days in rituals. I love it. I can dilate time and experience months in minutes if I can shift my consciousness to gamma and hold it there. And I've done that sometimes, and it was epic. And I also know how long my manifestations usually take and how much faster they go with different tools. So my room is kind of a power spot. I have things distributed all over the place. And I don't have a lot of things here, but one thing I do have, this is a golden mica. So formica is a type of stone on shiny tables. Golden mica has a lot to do with certain energies of radiance and support and receiving light energies from others and allowing the permission of that in yourself from an action standpoint. It's a beautiful being. I'm just going to hold him up here for any of you who would love to receive. And this is one of 40 crystal beings in my room. And yes, there are others around this size. I have tachyon rods, I have powery necklaces, I have statues of divine beings, I have 2 inert gas devices, I have so much mojo, supplements, plasmas, you name it. And while, yes, at some level, you could say, well, David, aren't those just, as Bashar also says, permission slips? Sure. But if you breathe air, that's your permission slip for existing in a human body. You know, when you no longer need to breathe air, go for it. So the science of needing a crystal or needing a power object, you could say it's all in the mind and it's not necessary and be minimalistic. And you could also just do a scientific experiment to test it. There you go. A simple experiment is how many pennies you find walking for a mile outside on the same path every day. I think that's a brilliant magical experiment. It's so simple. Walking is healthy anyway. You could say biking if you liked biking, or biking, walking, or jogging. If it's too cold or too hot, or it's not right for you to do that, just think of some other experiment. You know, Damanhur, one of the mystery schools I studied at, says you want to look at anything that could be a factor. Your energy, what you ate, how you slept, the moon phase, the astrological phase, your emotional attachment to the scenario, the amount of time you spent in the efforts. There's so much that you could track. And we do what we will do. And that might sound like it doesn't make sense, but if you think about it, if you will meditate for an extra 5 minutes a day in high vibratory manifestation energies, and you know you will do that, then you'll do that today. In other words, if you believe in yourself that you can take on the habit, you'll do it. If you don't believe you can take on the habit of practicing manifestation, of taking 5 hours a week, of doing whatever these practices, rewriting any or all these exercises on a weekly basis, mirror affirmations, any of the stuff I teach. If you say, I want to set a goal of doing this every day, I want to make this change, I would like to X, If you really believe that, then you do it immediately. You don't need to prep. You're excited, you know it, it's decided, you stop eating that cheese. Cool, so we're at the hour-and-a-half mark for those who have been here with me in Zoom, and the 1 hour and 11-minute mark and 11 seconds just then for Facebook. Wanted to give another opportunity for Q&A, and please write something now if you have it. And I'm also going to review a few unanswered topics while you write your own thing. Anne says, there's an iPhone app called Sensei, spelled S-E-N-S-I-E, Sensei, that you can use for muscle testing, and it works with the gyro. That's really cool. I am going to screenshot that. I did not know this. So I have an Android, but I'm actually going to look this up, Anne. So for anybody who wasn't tuned in at the time, muscle testing, I taught a way in this workshop to test the intensity of a limiting belief or type of trauma. And if I highly recommend, even if you were here, that you go over that practice and education until you really, really get it in. Dylan, I answered you. Let's see if I have any questions from Facebook now. I will talk about the art, Matthew, and I don't see any of the questions from there or YouTube or Instagram, so we're good. We just have the art. So Isis is the goddess of magic. It's just having more divine energy in this space related to success and evolution and experiences of magical energies. This is a painting by Nora Mendoza, who is a very talented First Nations painter. This painting came from her, went to my maternal grandmother, and then went to me. And then over here is an intergalactic Buddha that is super duper cosmic, and it's a beautiful tapestry of something I got at Lucidity Festival. And all of the art in my room and the aluminum foil I have that helps block EMFs from the Wi-Fi above and the power lines above, everything has intention. You know, I could choose to call in Isis every day for 5 minutes, or I could put a tapestry up that has value. Now I have more abundant magical energy by doing one action, and I'm in the habit of recognizing it, so I feel more of it. So that's a smidgen about the art. Anybody else who wants to learn more, we have 2 more things come up. Jenny said you released a music single about self-love and empowerment. I believe that it could make me a lot of money. So meditating on the connections for that to happen every day is the way to go. That's a great question. So I hope everybody heard that. I'm actually going to reread Jenny's question, and I want you to really pay attention to what she's asking. That's great, Jenny. I released a music single about self-love and empowerment. I believe that it could make me a lot of money. So meditating on the connections for that to happen every day is the way to go. Question mark. Whew. Yes and no. Meditating on the result you want, yes. On that particular result, if I may, I would offer a different result. Now, connections aren't money. Connections are a bridge to money. So it is usually easier for people to manifest what they would do with the money than just money itself. Not always the case, but I've heard this and I've experienced this. So Jenny, what I would offer is that you get a high profile celebrity interview, like you're on Ellen, you're a music guest for Ellen, for example, or something really high level. And most people at that level have either made a lot of sales to get a lot of public notice to be worth Ellen's audience or to be valuable for her audience, so she would want you for that value exchange. And or you're on Ellen, you're going to get a lot of freaking music sales and ticket purchases and event purchases, and that's going to go with it. And for you to be on Ellen, a lot of stuff needs to happen before that. So I would recommend the highest possible visualization you can. Pick the same one, keep it consistent. If anything changes, the only things that should change are more intense positive energy, more time, and richer visualizations with all 5 senses. That's a great question, Jenny. And I believe anybody who's tuned in and motivated can apply that example, that framework to your own life. A couple more messages from Matthew Learning. Yes, visual cues are valuable for remembering frequencies. of thoughts and values and manifesting and experience potential. I agree. EMF. So EMF waves, to be ultra concise and unscientific, I feel are life harming. BG3 waves, let me see if I have a BG3 device here, are life nourishing or life supporting. And you can actually convert EMFs to BG3s with these little devices. And if I found one, and I've been cleaning up quite a bit, so I don't have one here, but they look a little bit like this. So if you look at a computer chip, it looks pretty much flat and laser etched, and it moves electrical current in certain ways, and that has certain effects that cascade to the world. Let me see if I can get more contrast on this so you guys can see the designs. It's pretty cool. All right. So this is by the same guy who makes BG3s. I think, well, just hit me up privately if you're curious. So this creates a power spot wherever it's displayed. And I have 3 of these, and they work together in harmony. This is kind of cool. So I'm actually going to hold this up. This feels really activating in a good way. Okay, you can screenshot this. I'm going to take it down. So if you think about how energy affects matter, we have sunlight, which is energy, photons that have mass, that are matter, that affect the matter of our physical bodies by vibrating it and heating it, that affect its energy. There's a whole field of study that there's government funding for a school in California called the Globe Sound Healing Institute that talks about cymatics, how sound and frequency affect matter and living systems in certain ways. So everything affects anything, whether it's radio waves or X-rays or microwaves or gamma rays or sunlight or EMF or BG3 or C3PO or whatever, right? So EMFs generally have a harmful effect. And if something has a harmful effect on you, you want to neutralize, stop, or block it. That's the foil. All right. No other questions from anybody. So I am going to start to wrap this workshop so we can honor our 2-hour time container. I'm really grateful for everybody who showed up. And this, again, is one of 10 abundance workshops in this series. So I just had this one posted on Eventbrite. I do not have the other ones listed on there yet. I apologize for that. I was waiting for my new studio setup and everything arrived today. So please either comment on this on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, or please just reply to an email if you got to take it through Zoom, if you would like to be notified. Alternatively, very simply, you can just go to magicalgoldenage.com and subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll send out a heads up when the next ones are scheduled. Also, every recording for each of these 10 workshops, so about 20 hours worth of content, will be made available as an ongoing basis and when the whole thing is finished. So at any time you can send me a PM and I can send you that stuff. I will occasionally be posting it on social media. I don't like to spam my feeds too much, but I do provide that information pretty well and pretty freely. So a little preview of what the next abundance workshops will include. So one will be including a Lakshmi ritual, the one that got me that $68,000 contract, and chanting Lakshmi and bringing in that energy. And we'll also be talking about divine energies, defining them, increasing them, working with them, do's and don'ts, what it means, and really bringing in a lot of that energy in a practical ritual that will have a direct effect on your money field. That's the next one, so I hope you come. I believe it'll be Sunday night for those of you who are tuned in now. I believe Sunday at 8 p.m. Pacific. So I need to officially schedule that, so please stay tuned, or if you wonder about remembering, just PM me or comment now and I'll make sure to let you know about it. Future workshops will be specific things on goal setting, on business building, on abundance and the different categories we talked about. So friendships, love, finance, job, and magic. And effectiveness in magic and manifestation is a big fun topic for me. So we're definitely going to spend, I think, a couple workshops going really deep into that in my systems. Right after the abundance series, I'm going to have a 10 workshop series for healing. And so if you really wanted to work through building healing skills, that's going to be next. And it'll be 2 workshops a week of the first and then 2 a week of the second. But if it really feels like you'd like support for any of these topics sooner or more custom to you, please reach out for a session one-on-one, and I'd be happy to talk with you about accelerating the process for you. So cool, a couple other ways you can be involved. So I've been releasing a video a day on YouTube. I've been doing a great streak with my good friend Cosmic. So I'd love your support if you find me on YouTube to, watch a little bit, like it, comment, subscribe, same with whatever I post on Facebook. I really care to give a lot of value out to people in the world, and a lot of value I give for free. And there's a video on YouTube called Why Awaken Humanity, which talks about my motives very passionately at length. But while I'm passionate about magic, I think it's very practical to help the people who wish it to spiritually awaken. I feel awakening brings freedom from emotional reactivity. I feel awakening, it brings lightheartedness and joy. I feel awakening helps us have more control and options in our life and to affect the world and for others in positive ways. Healing, nature, sustainability, so many different areas. I feel that the issues we have over resource management and how people are treated, a lot of that could be resolved with the additional maturity that comes from awakening, enlightenment, spiritual growth, and things like that. Whether people learn from me or whoever else, it doesn't matter. As long as the other person is just as, if not more effective. Kidding, people can do whatever they want. And I love magic, and I love how magic is effective, because if you've experienced anything mystical in your life, if you've had anything like I've had with telekinesis, materialization, seeing the weather change dramatically, aligned with my intention in a specific time container, levitation, telepathy, having light come out of my hand, shooting stars or spaceships on command, a lot of stuff, having specific types of people knock on your door within a couple days of you asking for that to occur. I've had or seeing ghosts, having premonitions, precognitions, accurate visions, lucid dreaming, astral projection. The list goes on, whatever it is. Those experiences give conviction. So I care to level myself up and have other people level up, because if you feel the immaterial, the 4D, 5D, 7D, etc., if you think they might be real, you're interested or excited or passionate. But if you experience them and you understand them, then you know they're real. Living from soul, manifesting from 5D isn't just something you schedule for some time and do. It's you shifting back to the greater version of yourself that has these strengths and these capabilities. It's like, why crawl when you can walk? Why walk when you can run if you want to run? If you want to travel the distance of a mile, achieving your purpose, achieving your goals in a certain period of time, why crawl just because you crawled before you were 3 years old or 2 years old, right? I feel as a human race, as a civilization, we are crawling in terms of the progress we need so much. That is not a value judgment, and that is not a reflection on anything unless you choose for it to be. Obviously, we could talk about politics and resource management and all sorts of crap, but I don't want to get into any of that. So what does it mean to run spiritually or magically? Take Wim Hof. He taught people how to control their autonomic nervous system in weekend workshops, and they didn't have to go through the 40 years of requirements for Tomo meditation in Zen Buddhism. Now, that's not to say those 40 years didn't have benefit. I'm sure they would have tons of benefit, but I feel if people can learn to manifest visible light, which I've done and has been done around me in my aura and through my hands multiple times, and people see that, they're like, wow, you can move so much energy to like create a spark. Like in the show The Magicians, that's actually real. That's so cool. I'm like, yeah, that's just what we can do as humans. And it's not that it's important or awesome or that the attention on the individual or there are reasons for it. None of that matters. We're able as human beings to run. We're able as human beings to manifest light. We're able as human beings to heal ourselves and regrow forests. We're able as human beings to see into the future. We're able as human beings to affect our reality to a significant degree and the degree of others. And yeah, I feel it's our birthright to learn or be able to learn effective, good, powerful magic. Hashtag get famous. Matthew, I love you. Yes, you too, brother. You too. Because, you know, it's being able to reach a big audience. If you have a deep cause and a lot of people are tuned into you, more people will hear about the cause. And if you know what you're doing and how to do it, more people will act in support of that cause in one way or another. Cool. Any other last questions? No last questions. All right. So some other basic housekeeping. I have a book called Magic is Real. I think it's the best book on called Magic is Real ever written. It's on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, Audible. Great wizard voice by the animated voice actor Jack Reeder. I have 4 more books coming out this year, very likely. I think I talked about all the other stuff that I do. I didn't go deep into the mastermind. So if you're looking for powerful magical training and magical manifestation time where everybody focuses on each other and we amplify the field and we learn deeply and powerfully and quickly, and you want to have that as a commitment every week, please hit me up. I have an option for that. And you know, beyond this, oh, excuse me, it's been a long week. Beyond this, wow, I just experienced a great shift I'd love to share with you right after I finish my previous statement. So beyond this, if you have similar missions, similar visions, similar cares, please share any thoughts that you have. Even though I feel that I have 23 years in this incarnation of consistent experience, knowledge, and skill building, and that I have a certain level of competency and proficiency in this material, I also feel that we're all students, we're all learning things, we're all humans, we all make and have made mistakes by different reckonings. So any feedback or thoughts, critiques, ideas, compliments, praise, you know, all of it's welcome. Haters gonna hate, but I usually block haters and bullies, so just heads up about that. So what just occurred is, if you were in my personal power workshop on how to be a champion, I mentioned this mastermind concept and session work, and I really talked about it for the first time. And I talked about the $1,000 monthly investment, or $9.99 for the mastermind, and the merits behind when you commit to yourself significantly for something, you care to get the value out of that. And if you want that structure for yourself, plus all the value in a very good mastermind, then sign up. When I said that for the first time, I was breaking through a traditional self-worth barrier in myself. Today, when I talked about the mastermind in a aligned, casual way, it was at, I want to get out my one of my visual aids, it was at like 10 to 20 on the habit stream to unconscious competence. And when I said that, this opening happened in my ears. And ears are related to the throat chakra, which is related to truth, authenticity, time, and space. And my ears have been ringing like the bells of the Notre Dame Cathedral. I assume they have bells. They used to ring really loud because of how I liked to listen to music in the past. And like, man, I know music, I know healing, I can heal my ears. I heal broken shoulders and sprained ankles and sinus infections and all this other stuff. And I guess legally I have to say I didn't heal anything. It was healed, correlated with my intention for all the watchdogs and the people who, that's important to say those disclaimers. And yeah, I got to clear my attachments around that. I feel that. But in that physical shift, I felt literally like 4.5 minutes ago, I myself was liberated and healed and shifting towards unconscious competence. And to show you how I care to walk the talk, part of my extrinsic motivation for having a 10 workshop series on a certain topic is because I know when I show up, when I have to show up for you, when I announce something and people buy tickets and I make a public commitment and it's my credibility, yes, I care to be of service. Yes, I love this. Yes, it's my life mission and purpose. Yes, anytime resources of help, love, support, or money come in, that helps me do what I do. And I love that and I'm grateful for that anytime and every time it's sent. And I knew that the stuff I have to work through as I channel and present its offer, it's going to stretch me. It's going to push me to raise that bar. I didn't used to be able to make videos and see myself reflected on video. And now I see 3 of myself. I see the Zoom main screen. I see the Zoom thumbnail. I see the Instagram on my phone. And the YouTube one is kind of hidden. And it's fine. I mean, I'm looking right at the camera, not at myself, but that doesn't bug me at all. But it took me, about a dozen hours to get over that. So I really encourage you, for one last habit for abundance, if there's anything that's uncomfortable, it doesn't have to be a healing crisis. It doesn't have to be a major project. It doesn't even have to be 45 hours or 13 days. The consistent momentum is more important. An object in rest tends to stay at rest. An object in motion tends to, okay, I cannot roll this on my arm and not have it fall on something important, so I'm just going to pretend to roll it. An object in motion tends to stay in motion, right? Please quote the scientist. You get a biscuit if you quote the scientist who said that. So if you're in motion, if you're in the habit and strengthening the habit, you're going to succeed much more consistently than saying, I'll build a habit when. One of my best coaches, Jim Danielski of Career Planning Specialists, who helped train me as a career coach, among other things, an entrepreneur, Jim said, even when he's sick and tired, and he told me this even in his late 60s or 70s, he would do 1 push-up and 1 sit-up and 1 jumping jack. So he would never not work out. Even when he was like covered in snot and fully inflamed, he's like, I know those won't kill me or give me a heart attack, so I did 1 of each. So I'd encourage you, what will you do at least 1 of each for? All right. Thank you so much for showing up. I so love and appreciate you. If you got value out of this, then thank you for that. And thank you for the opportunity to serve you. And if you care that others see this, then anytime you like, comment, or share and tag people, other people are likely to see it and get value, especially if you say why. And if you would like to support the creation of this material or any missions I talked about, there's a lot of ways to do that. So please DM me with any ways that you feel called or able to offer that support. And if you care to be involved professionally, whether it's personal training or a book or a school or a mastermind or a lot of the other services, those are available too. So again, thank you for your time and your love. Appreciate you, Rachel. Glad you stayed through it. It's great to see you here. And Anne said, I love the consistent service framework that you bring to this work, makes it sustainable. Yeah, it was perceptible when that happened. Try location. You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, thank you everybody for who came. This was really fun and heartwarming, and honestly seeing some familiar names makes it feel more tribey, more community. It makes it feel good for me. So I really look forward. Yeah, you're welcome, Stephen. I really look forward to Sunday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that Eventbrite event now, and I'm going to share it on Facebook. And it's going to be pretty much the same thing, but say 2 of 10. So if you want the easy way, add it to your calendar. Just that should be up on my Facebook page in about 10 minutes. And if you're watching this on Instagram, please hit me up with a DM. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description within a few minutes. Cool. Love y'all. Ciao for now.